2022. With our news cycle, it feels like a lifetime ago, but actually it was just 52 days ago when it appeared Roe v. Wade's end was on the horizon. It was the bombshell Politico article that sent newsrooms scrambling and activists to the streets with picket signs. Yes, the leaked memo, an unprecedented one that indicated the high court was going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Just a moment, one of the authors of that piece joins us. The article also sent Washington into a tailspin. Democrats were outraged at the time, afraid of what the world would become. Republicans were on a different mission. They wanted to find and punish the leaker. Now, over a month and a half later, the opinion released from the court, the constitutional right to abortion, has been upheld for nearly half a century, and now it no longer exists. Joining us now, the author of that Politico report, Josh Gernstein, senior legal affairs reporter for Politico. What a testament to your reporting that we're still talking about it 52 days later. Congratulations. We haven't spoken since you broke it. Obviously, been a big fan of your work for a long time, Josh. Are you surprised that so little changed between the leaked opinion that you got and published and what we saw today?
I'm a little bit surprised, Leland, that Justice Alito didn't do a bit more tweaking to his opinion in light of the fact that it's been sitting out there for, as you say, about a month and a half. It's a very unusual situation that a draft Supreme Court opinion would be sort of like a Wikipedia entry where anyone could jump into it and offer their criticism, as many historians and law professors have done over the last month and a half. I think possibly Justice Alito felt he didn't want to go down that road and sort of indulge the public fallout of the leak, and therefore he decided to stick to pretty much what he'd written before. That said, he did add some pretty big chunks to his opinion, dealing with the criticism from the dissenters on the liberal side and also the alternate approach that Chief Justice John Roberts wanted to take. So he did put new chunks in his opinion that addressed and dismissed their arguments.
I don't want to get into too much on asking you about your source, but people leak things for a reason. Tonight, do you feel as though, or if you've talked to them or know their thinking about how they view today vis-a-vis the leak and whether or not this was a one-off thing, or are we to expect now that your reporting will work to uncover more of these draft opinions?
I can't really talk about the reaction to the source or further discussions with the source or sources involved in the story. I do think that, the fact that we've seen this draft opinion means that it's possible that in the future you could see more opinions. But, that said, Leland, it's a pretty extraordinary event, this decision. Very few Supreme Court decisions command the level of public attention, political attention, media attention, even legal world attention of a ruling that could potentially overturn Roe versus Wade, as we reported early last month, or as happened today, did overturn this precedent that's been on the books for 49 years. You just don't see that very often, particularly in a case that I think resonates with so many people in the American public that many of the other disputes the Supreme Court takes up don't. So maybe if a case of this magnitude came along soon, you might see another draft come out. But I don't see a case of this magnitude in the cards in the immediate future.
Fascinating. You make such a good point about the significance here. You almost have to go back to Brown v. the Board or Roe originally to change the world of American politics, American jurisprudence in the way that this did. Justice Thomas said that he felt as though other cases that were on the road to Roe should change. That about same-sex marriage, the sodomy laws of Texas, and also the Griswold case, which talked about how married couples should be able to have access to contraceptives, or anybody should be able to. Do you see an appetite right now among the conservative legal movement that you cover to try and put in a test case in some state that would then allow Justice Thomas's thoughts to become a case before the court?
Maybe at the fringe of that movement, there are always people that are looking to bring any kind of case anytime a justice suggests that a challenge might be viable. We've got a lot of lawyers in this country. We got a lot of groups that span the entire political spectrum from one end to another. So, yeah, somebody is going to bring those kinds of challenges. Are there people trying to pass laws in some states, to ban IUDs or something? Yes. That said, I don't think that's going to be the main immediate legal fallout from this decision. I don't think next year or the year after the Supreme Court is going to take up a chance to review their decision on same-sex marriage, and they might overturn it. For one thing, you need votes of 4 justices just to take a case. If you look at Justice Thomas's opinion saying that those decisions should be next in line, no one else signed on to that opinion. They could have done that today. They chose not to.
Yeah,
and
no,
in
they
fact,
could have.
the language...
Josh, I got to run. We're up against a hard break. Great reporting as always. Thank you. Dan's back on Monday.
Thank you, Leland.
Have a great weekend. Banfield starts now.
Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNationNow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.